Right then, strap in, because this one's going to need more than the little old Carlton cliche that I can come up with. Or Michael Voss's press conference. King's birthday eve. 74,000 plus at the G. Carlton coming off the bye and refreshed. Essendon bruised, battered, makeshift backline. Struggling, and yet it was a game again for Carlton of two extremes. One quarter, the football looked like we'd been blessed by Pagan himself, followed by 3 quarters that made you wonder if the Blues had ever played football before. But a big talking point is the babies of Essendon again show grit, show fire around the contest, and signs that their turnover game can be a force. We're going to dive into it, look at the tactics, look at what went on, and hopefully find a way to define both club seasons thus far. Let's take the intro and be back after that. So let's paint the picture. 10 minutes of beautiful football from the Blues, starting like a house on fire. And by halfway through quarter 2, they'd beaten 7 of the first 8 goals out to 38, and the vibe was pretty good. It felt like game over. It felt like, Jesus, these Blues look like they're a good football side. But as often is the case, footy isn't worked like that, and teams this year have found with Carlton, ask a couple of questions, take away that ease around stoppage, and then you find a way to flip the momentum over and create turnover scores against. Essendon chipped away, kicking the next 10 of 14 goals, and the final margin resulted in an 8-point win. A thriller, yes. Statement win, absolutely not. Carlton's first quarter was surprisingly impressive. 6 goals for, 13 inside 50s, going at a 77% scoring efficiency. They ran, they overlapped, they played wide, they even opened up the corridor. But then the inside 50s piled up, only 13 scores from over 40 inside 50s. And after the first quarter, they went at 30%. That's not just a drop, that's a nosedive. And that is Carlton's season all year. It becomes very retentive, it becomes very safe. And where you see that natural dash and excitement of the Blues, they genuinely look like they weren't enjoying their roles. Essendon, they weren't making up the numbers as well. They outworked Carlton at the contest. They used handball chains to bring Carlton's pressure and use it against them. The pressure was outstanding. They scored 51 from forced turnovers. And when the Blues started to see that, they got shaky and they sat back. And they looked far from settled. Let's talk about Carlton's first quarter game plan. The message really during the bye from Voss, he said, was make the ground big and use the ball better. And to be fair to him, they did. D50 scoring 26 from defensive half chains. They kicked instead of over handballing in the middle. They looked to get clean looks. Ollie Hollands was sensational here. Sam Walsh, the running patterns created width. And Carlton used short targets. We didn't see them long bombs. And with Mitch McGovern working in the forward line and Hudson O'Keefe, they looked to change the angles, have that extra kick. Williams was particularly really strong with his leads from that pocket, which Carlton target, creating 2 direct score assists. But then Essendon really upped their pressure. And that's where Carlton's composure and lack of belief in their system applied. Entries turned into bombs, which then allows them to be sitting ducks, particularly on D50. The inside 50 connection completely ceased to exist. And repeat entries died up. 30 forward half scores versus 47 from D50. No overlap run, no bite, and they're reliant on them contested marks. And it's a blueprint in how not to manage the lead, but it's also a blueprint in how Carlton lose the game. You take away them short options, make them be a little bit more bold. Carlton switch off and they go for safety. And it seems ingrained at the minute in my Blue Boys that safety is the number one word. But how did Essendon respond from that absolute shellacking? They didn't panic. They trusted their game plan. They chipped away. They used their handball game brilliantly through Caldwell, Gresham, and turned stoppage into width as soon as possible. Peter Wright took Wheater into the goal square. And then players like Matt Guelphy looked to cut off his supply chain, and we looked to yard off it. Weering was one of the many leaders this week when the game started to really go against the Blues. The Blues worried about it. And the centre bounce dominance flipped as well. They really got that assertion on there. And it was the tale of the two tags, really. Patrick Cripps, 15 touches, really struggling. His lowest count for the year. And then Chincotta on merit. But Chincotta, he just didn't do anything on the other end. He was very strong defensively. And these nullifying tags, we saw it later on against Melbourne. When you just play a guy just to stifle, it almost takes you one out. And that nullifying both midfield engines showcase what two sides are different. They had the faith to still play their game through other players, where the Blues had the players who were playing well. They just couldn't execute the game plan and trust themselves. And Essendon structurally adjusted perfectly. Silvani took Caddy, but Wright pulled himself higher up the ground, trying to isolate Haynes and move Wheaton away from the contest. Him and Guelphy were brilliant, genuinely clever stuff from a side that is missing key pieces down back to trust yourself to do it. Let's look at the performers for both sides. Tom de Koning, towering presence, absolutely dominant, mass amounts of score launches, 7 of them. He beat Goldstein in and around the ground and was really strong. Jack Silvani was absolutely superb down the back, nullified any threat from that extra lead threat that Caddy has, and really, really has mastered this role, and at times looked the most responsible down back. And Zach Williams, the goals, the goal assists, he gave Carlton the flair and a little bit of excitement. And it was really the showcase in that forward line. Motlop and Williams playing to their strengths and really enjoying their role versus Fogarty and Fantasia, who looked like they were hating every aspect of the contested start of play. Essendon, Peter Wright, 3 goals, was a real big presence. Could have pinched it as well, was really strong. Will Setterfield, his run with job with Cripps was brilliant. It was brutal. He stopped Cripps getting them early launches away from the contest. Really strong. And Matt Guelphy, not flashy, but so nagging to watch. His goal set up a real tight finish and really turned that game on its head. And a shout out to Lumanuel, whose first goal with his first kick is what footy dreams are made of, and that was a good sight. Let's look at the takeaways from this game. Carlton's identity crisis at the minute. It seems to be complete frustration and confusion for nearly half of the game. 1 quarter of brilliance where they really looked to get the game going on their terms. And it seems that Carlton want to play this slow, hard-fought footy game for the majority of the game. And unless they can find a way to really embrace that expressive style, Voss keeps saying it's about repeating. The problem is that we also repeat the mistakes. And at the minute, it feels like we're really treading water. And it can't be understated what would have happened if the Blues had lost this game. If the Blues had lost this game, we are talking Dante's depiction of hell. The world is over. Everything is fire and brimstone. But the fix is in the game plan. You do see it at times. And it's about having that flair and bravery to play that game style, win, lose or draw. The Blues are their own worst enemy. And I don't want to take any credit away from Essendon. Essendon did what we said in the preview they had to do. Make it hard, stifle Carlton around the centre clearance, and watch them not have the bravery to take the game on. And that leads me on to Essendon. That next crop is hungry, and it's annoying because the Blues are showing the same thing. Hudson O'Keefe looks hungry, looks like he wants to play football. Matt Carroll gets his head over the ball. Harry O'Farrell last week was sensational. But Essendon have got some real hungry young players there. Players like Lawal look like he was ready-made. Gresham, one of the older guys going there. But the players playing that other roles, the lesser names, they look up for this fight. They look keen. Nick Martin in a more offensive role. They're not quite there yet. But for the first time in a long time, you can see they're trying to build something. And they are injured. And credit must go to Essendon for the way that they are playing with a desire and with a belief. And they are playing a system that they're going to be playing for 5 years' time. It's not for now. It's preparing and building them blocks. For the Blues, it's about really making sure that we have to take this game by game. And I know it's heartbreaking for Carlton fans, but we are far from a top 4 side. But the only way they can get back in there is by finding a way to fix this on the fly, because it ain't going to miraculously change overnight. And it starts with the senior players. The senior players have to take some accountability. The turnovers, the nonsense with disposals, the fact that they can shelve what is working very quickly at the first sign of trouble is always going to hold them back. They have to take some ability, take some accountability, and take the game on. Because when the Blues take the game on, everything is hidden because they can run and chase. That is something they're doing. But question marks have got to be asked about their senior players. This is another week where we've seen Charlie Curnow kick early goals, then check out. This is another week where Cripps has been taken away from the contest at times, and then the other players not having that bravery to take their first man on and take contest, and then really drop back. What's next for both of these sides? Well, Carlton, they face West Coast Eagles, North Melbourne, and Port. They have got some very, very easy fixtures, favourable. But performances like that won't cut it when teams come. If they play like they do in the quarter 1, they could steamroll all 4 of these sides. But quarter 2 and quarter 4 become more of the fancy. They are in trouble. The Blues are literally on life support in their season. And the only way, in my opinion, out of this is through bravery. Through bravery and take the game on. I would rather see this side miss finals playing the way they want to play as opposed to trying to be safe and not lose games. Essendon, they've got a real tough stretch coming up. Geelong is facing them next. They've got Geelong up next, which is going to be a real test. It's a tough stretch, but the blueprint from Sunday gives them hope that they will embarrass themselves. The question is, can the belief hold up and can the bodies hold up? So the Blues scraped through, and at times it did feel like a loss. The Bombers fall short. Both will walk away with different avenues from this. Essendon, chances to win it, but a lot of pride. And the Blues, 1 quarter and 3 abject performances. But it has to be understated. It can't be understated. If they'd lost that, the wheels were off. And now they get a chance to redeem themselves over the next couple of weeks and build some momentum. At the minute, it does feel like these cracks are being held together by sticky tape. If you like the video, please hit the like and subscribe button. Got loads of content coming your way. We've got a full wrap of both of the under-18 games tomorrow. And we've also got the Collingwood-Melbourne game review. Like the video, drop a sub if you're new. Share this with a mate who reckons that Carlton are doomed. And I'll see you next time. Pommy out.
Spent all my life holding all of it closely. I played it innocent, a feel of discontent. I'm finally facing it all, fearless.